and tradition all weave into making this 6 yards of Kanjivaram a must-have for most well-heeled Indian women. And it's no wonder that these saris have made this little town on the northeastern coast of Tamil Nadu famous across the world. Even today, hundreds of weavers work on these hand-run looms to create masterpieces that travel across the world. And one company that has helped the sari make that journey has been this chain of stores, Nalli. The story here started at a very basic level.
In 1928, that's the first time, my great-grandfather, that's the name of the store we have, Nalli Chinnasamy Chetty, that's the name of my great-grandfather. So he was a weaver in Kanjivaram. He was a weaver, he was weaving saris, and then he was there are some people who are entrepreneurs. My great-grandfather was one of them. So he thought, why couldn't he market those saris? So he used to bring saris, by bus and train, and he used to give it to the, meet people here, and then try to sell them. And then he thought of opening up a store. Then in 35 he opened up a store very close by from where we are.
But the Kanjivaram is, I always thought that it was a art form or a weave of Tamil Nadu as a state. But what I realized after reading up on it is the fact that it is actually something that came from different influences.
Basically we are, I can talk about myself, that we are from a weaving community. It's called Saliyar, and we are from Telugu speaking. So there are a lot of these communities, like earlier, it was a composite Tamil Nadu that time, composite Madras, where people from Andhra, from Karnataka, and all of them are there. So we stayed back, for now I think for 5-6 generations. I told you we are already here for 5 generations. There's much more. And they stayed back, and that's how weaving started. And you'll have a lot of influences from the temples, because you see it's a land of temples if you go to Kanjivaram.
In fact, Kanjivarams I know are often called temple saris. There's a whole sect of Kanjivarams called temple saris. What makes them temple saris? What is the, how do you make out whether there's a temple sari or not?
Now it's that temple sari is very loosely defined, because even the zari in a form of it looks like a temple, but basically, I mean they do call it but basically it's a temple sari. It's like during Kalakshetra and all that time, then there's a particular weave where it's a Araka color sari. Araka is a very auspicious thing which we normally use for the wedding, and there's a particular design, like with a swan and a chakra sort of thing, which they call it as a temple sari, which we use for the weddings. So I don't know how it got its name, but then we call it a temple sari. But then now when a lot of customers come and ask for temple sari, they mean something else. Then they say, no, this is not the one, but that's the one actually. It's called a temple sari. I know how it got its name, but it's a thing which we wear for the wedding, for the muhurt and other thing, and a particular design.
For traditional families in Tamil Nadu, the Kanjivaram has been a must-have for weddings for generations. In fact, for 400 years, ever since the time the Pallava kings of the region invited weavers into this temple town to weave silk for the deities. They came in from areas as far as Surat and stayed here. But centuries later, despite all the history and tradition that has been passing on through generations, the Kanjivaram is at the crossroads, thanks to all the development around this town.
If you go to Kanjivaram now, there are a lot of engineering colleges around that area. And if you go to Sri Perambuttur or something, which is around midway between Chennai and Kanjivaram, it's around 35 kilometers from here, about the same distance from there. A lot of factories like Nokia, Saint-Gobain, there's so many, Hyundai, so many of them. And so there are a lot of engineering colleges coming up in the city. So what happens in the campus interview, people get absorbed, and not so far away, just 30, so they go. I mean, it's easy there. The company buses come pick you up because, all technical people, what they need. And then they come and drop you, and then they're very well paid. So a lot of people, if you go to Kanjivaram, you'll be surprised. There'll be more engineers than weavers. That's what I think. Yeah. So,
but that hasn't helped the business of weaving,
no,
has it?
but what has happened is without mentioning name, I would tell you that there's this guy, like us, he's been connected with Nalli for at least me and my like 2 generations now. With my son, will be 3. His father was supplying, he was weaving sari, supplying to his father, and then of course he's also doing that. His son is a software engineer, and he moved to IBM, Bangalore. And last time when I went, he was back in Kanjipuram. I was very surprised. What happened? No, I got married, and then I worked there for some times in IBM. Then somehow I felt I should come back to my business.
So from IBM back to weaving. That's an awesome
IBM
story.
in Bangalore back to weaving. So that is very encouraging. It's nice that what happens is instead of pushing them, and they voluntarily come back. That means this art is going to remain.
The software engineer that Ramanathan Nalli is referring to may have come back home. But when you come here, it's evident that ensuring this art continues is going to be a tough challenge. A challenge that successful businessmen like Nalli are taking on by expanding. But interestingly for Nallis, moving out of the comforts of home, that is Chennai, was a quirk of fate in 1990.
I had a friend, something to do with some trade promotion. They had a sale in Pragati Maidan, which still happens today. So his name is Mr. Rao. Okay, I still remember Mr. VDN Rao. I think he was the head. He said, I insist that you have a sale here. No, he was asking me to put up a store earlier because he's still a customer. I think he's retired, must be around 78 years. Still a customer. I do meet him once in a while. So he was there in Delhi. So he said, no, you have to put up a store. I said, I've never even tried, and why Delhi? I mean, I would try something very closer to Chennai. No, you don't understand the market. People love your saris, especially the Kanjipuram saris. They go all the way to Chennai to buy from your store. Okay, my wife goes there. And then I was a little skeptical. I don't want to put an investment in Delhi and try. Then he said no. And then in Pragati Maidan, he gave us a stall. It was overwhelming. I never imagined. Okay. It was like, I don't know, it was in 1990. We did more than 1 crore of rupees in 15 days.
Are you serious?
Yes, those days. And only Kanjipuram sari, nothing else. And then they loved it, the Delhi crowd. And then he called me and said, okay, I stand vindicated. Are you going to put up a store or not? And then we put up a store in 1991. I'm very happy about it. Now we have like 3 stores in Delhi.
Today, Nalli's has 26 stores across India's biggest cities and overseas, and new formats it's experimenting with. But at the heart of Nalli's success have been some basic common sense lessons learnt at the shop floor. More on that when we return. The Kanjivaram may be a familiar silk for most well-heeled Indians, but the company that has made it accessible to the country beyond the south has to be Nalli. Today it runs 26 stores, mostly in India, and last year, more than 80 years after setting up shop, it went back home to Kanchipuram to make its presence felt. While that may have been a homecoming of sorts for Nalli, what is interesting is the way it has done business, the traditional way. As the Harvard-educated vice chairman of the company explained, it starts at a very basic level at the Handloom Weaving Centre of Kanchipuram and the weaver cooperatives from where Nalli sources its saris.
In Kanjipuram, they weave like 3 saris. The warp which goes, it depends. In some villages it's 3, some it's 4. These are handloom. So after 3 saris, you give them the choice of changing the color and design, because these saris are so expensive. You wouldn't want your neighbor to wear the same one. Okay. So and then again, there are a lot of these designs which went into the sari. Most of them, there are a lot of inputs from the customers. Like when they come to buy, especially for a wedding, you would want a particular sari, particular design, particular color. So what you would say is, okay, I've seen this. They pick up like 3-4 saris and say, okay, I want this color, this design. Like a mix and match. Or they would bring some, ancient pictures or photos or what their parents used, and said, I like this design, but I want it in this
So
color.
is that level of customization you're saying?
Yes, that is how we built it up. But now, of course, we have so many stores. We are not doing what we did 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we used to do like, we used to sit with the customer. The customer would say, this is what I want. Majority of them, when they come to buy for the wedding, now they don't have, it's not that we don't have time, they don't have time themselves.
5 generations of doing business and meeting customers day in and day out has given Nalli an interesting insight into what works. And while Ramanathan Nalli may have got an Ivy League education, he says the best lessons have been learnt at the shop floor. For instance, the reason Nalli's moved out of just Kanchivrams has an interesting story behind it.
Initially, when we started, it was only Kanchipuram. Talk about way back. We didn't even know about other sarees. But then, when we started growing, and like people, when they're come to Kanchipuram, they kept asking us, I'm not talking me, my father, my grandfather, I don't have to step into another store to buy other sarees which we have to give as gifts. If you go for a wedding, you have to buy a whole lot of sari. You don't only buy for the bride. You have to gift a lot of sarees. Those sarees, they can't be expensive sarees. Like for cotton.
So the others are actually the others. They are not your primary focus. So
that's not our focus. But
so
I don't want
others to. That others, during a wedding season, you'd want to buy.
Even today, there are certain things which we don't do. Like we tried, they want even children. We don't sell children. Okay. But they would come and say, I would want to buy everything from Nalli. I don't want to step into another store. Like, why wouldn't you have it? Because you don't have it. You're pushing me to go to another store, which I don't want to. So when it comes to saris, at least, I thought I could do a good job, like trying to keep as much as possible so that, they can finish shopping in one store.
Today, almost 50,000 to 70,000 billing customers come into the Nalli stores in cities like Delhi and Chennai every month. And you can find a wide range here, from saris that cost 500 rupees to those that cost 100,000. So how does the concept of price, product, packaging and promotions work here? And was there a thought to it when Nalli Chinnaswamy Chetty first took that journey from Kanchipuram?
I don't think so there was a strategy when my great-grandfather started it. He came here for a living. Okay, strategy all maybe my time or my father's time. But then what happened is somehow those days, because we are so successful, we were never forced to give any discounts. So we never gave discounts. There's no seasonal discounts. Then we thought, why don't we continue that? So in the last 80 years, we don't have end of season. Nalli never gives a discount. And we also came out with an ad saying, if you're thinking about discount, then it's not Nalli. Because Nalli, so that's one of our strategies. It's very difficult for a retail industry, somebody to, that you have your older stocks, so you have end of season sale. You have sales all over, right? We never have a sale. When others have a sale, we just keep quiet.
And has that paid off?
Yeah, that's paid off.
Worked?
Yes, it has worked, because we have to be very careful in your merchandising, very careful in what you design. I have to see, because if I'm stuck with it, I don't have a discount sale to get rid of it.
Which puts a lot of pressure on you. So you'll have to manage your inventories, you have to manage your design accordingly. You can't have pieces that are not selling.
And you have to be very careful.
So how do you go about doing that? I mean, if you were to step back at any given month, what's the kind of strategy around designs in terms of color combinations, etc.?
See, I told you, we've been interacting with the customer all day long. Now I told you it's different, because now maybe they don't have the time, to come, and then it's different. I mean, your shopping experience itself is different. It's more about glitter, the more about your presentation, it's more about how your store looks. It wasn't then. It was very simple. It was just customer interaction. They would come, they would sit with you, they would tell you exactly what you want. And we used to weave it for them. How can I go wrong? Because it's like everything was custom made for them. Can't go wrong. So I never had to sit with pile of non-moving inventory.
But that was then.
Yes.
Not now.
Yeah, that's the experience, that it gave us experience, like 5 generations gave us experience to really understand the market, to give them what they want. So, and then, hardly anything left for us to do this end. And then we are trying to be very careful when it comes to inventory to give them only. In the process, maybe to a little extent we are risk averse in the sense that I may not, maybe other stores may try to do some designs or some novelty which they'll be taking a big risk. Mostly if you see it will be very traditional saris. Of course we bring out some new design, but a lot of thought goes into it. It's not that we are not stuck with some, but we don't have a discount sale.
Conservative is a word often used to describe Nalli. Despite the recent aggression it may be showing with a new generation trying to give this 83-year-old business a new dose of color. And there is reason too, because the biggest threat the company faces is not competition, it is relevance. And whether this traditional 6 yards of silk can survive. More on that when we return. For decades, the Kanjivaram has been a must-have for the affluent women in India who wore it to weddings, family ceremonies, parties, and not just in the south. If stars like these became ambassadors adding a dose of glamour to the 6 yards of traditional weaves they draped, stores like Nalli did a fair job spreading the word to new markets. But somewhere over the last decade, something changed, and a new breed of fashion designers gave what was a traditional outfit a makeover. So is Nalli's biggest challenge to remain relevant in this changing India?
We had one of the biggest agencies, was an ad agency. When they did this brand audit for Nalli, not a brand audit exactly, to find out, and there was a pitch, and then he said, Nalli is not a cool brand. Okay, Nalli is not, Nalli is known for tradition, for trust, for loyalty, okay, for longevity, for integrity, for everything but not coolness. This is what he said. Whether you like it or not, Nalli is not a cool brand. But it's got everything else other than being cool. Cool is something, very contemporary, very... so this thing is there. Even when they say cool, I said, can you be more specific? It's not that the agency said, I don't want to hurt you, but this is what it is. It's everything else but cool. In a sense, your customers are basically very traditional, very, like people 30 plus who are married, and not the college-going kids who would come to Nalli. This is a perception.
So is that a challenge, or is that something you're comfortable with? Because you are a company steeped in tradition. I mean, would you want to change?
I don't think so. I can change even if I want to, because like for 5 generations, this is how we've been. If I want to change, the image for Nalli, the customers who've been patronizing me for so many years, I don't think so they're going to like it, because at their cost. Maybe if I come out with a sub-brand or anything else, which has got nothing to do with Nalli.
But then, it brings me back to the question, India's changing fast, the demographics are changing. How do you get relevant? Even the most conservative, upper class brand, how does it get relevant to a changing India?
Very simple. See, when you're 18, your mother would be forcing you to come to Nalli, which you don't want to come to Nalli because I don't want to be seen there because it's just like 35 plus or whatever. You get married, you automatically, you've been coming to Nalli because your mom was dragging you. Then what you do is you do the same thing to your child. By that time, you become a Nalli customer.
That's a nice way of putting it.
So we don't go, marketing.
You don't go looking for people. They find you.
They find me, and then the biggest marketers are the moms. Because they say, okay, I bought my sari, my wedding sari here, so I insist that you buy from here. And then her mother says, that's a grandmother says, I bought mine too from Nalli. We've been here for donkey's years. Okay.
For generations, this logic seems to have worked. But in today's India, Nalli is not taking any chances, and there are plans to expand and diversify.
So keeping Nalli, even if I don't want to extend Nalli name to other products, they thought like like ethnic wear, we are like suits and kurtis and all the stuff we do have, but not to that extent. There's a big market. I understand that sari market is around, I don't know the figures, it's around 25,000 crores or something, and suits are close to 10 or 15,000 crores. That's the total business, and we are not even tapping a little bit of it. So they maybe have stores exclusively for that, and then may have that boutique type of things where you
like Nalli Next. Is
like
that
Nalli Next, yeah, that's one of them. Like I told you, they are looking even into jewelry. So because people are coming, it's wedding that people know they come for Nalli. So these are, we've been discussing on that. You have to work it out.
What would your great grandfather have thought of Nalli's getting into jewelry and sub categories? Do you think he would have gone with it?
Why my great grandfather? Even my father would say no. Yeah, because he says this is the only business I know. Okay, he would say no. He would say, but of course he won't stop me from doing it. But then because he would never stop. I think my great grandfather also would have done the same thing. They won't stop you. But he would say, we would stick to saris. Be very focused, of course.
And you also veering towards that, though you may not confess it.
Which one?
The fact that you should stick to your saris.
No, yeah, that is there. But then when, if they give it to me with data and saying, okay, this is how you should leverage your brand and not stop with this. You have to expand. There should be a product extension and all that. So maybe, yeah. Anyway, jewelry is in the pipeline.
It is? So by when will you see jewelry?
Maybe at the end of the year.
Really? And what kind of jewelry would it be?
No, real jewelry. It's real,
but
like
traditional South Indian jewelry?
That's what we start with. Yeah. No, it's still in paper, it'll take some time. We have not gone into what product we have to keep and things like that.
Nalli's is at the crossroads, and the sense is what has worked for the last 80 years might not going ahead. But will it be able to change its track and expand and recreate the magic? That remains something a lot of people will be watching out for.